Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Friday, it is August 7th, it's 2020, and we have 13 baseball games to talk about here on today's slate. I'm joined by my buddy Keith Easter, Eys819 over there on DraftKings for sure. How's it going, man?
Wishing for a mulligan on that Tyler Chatwood call, but other than that, doing good.
Yeah, listen, I was on Chatwood too. It happens to the best of us, and hey, we can't get them all right. If we got them all right, we would be making millions and doing really well. So, but you're not gonna get them all right. I was on Chatwood. I closed it. Like I know my slate's over. And I started to look at this slate to start prepping for Friday.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I'm dead on this one. Time for the next one.
Let's talk about it, man. 13 games, lot to get through here, so we're just going to dive right in. We got Kyle Wright and Vincent Velasquez, Braves, Phillies. Any interest here in Kyle Wright?
No, I have a lot of respect for this Phillies offense. Wright is an outstanding prospect, but the control command is not there yet, so no Kyle Wright for me.
Yeah, like I'm not. I just don't. I think both teams are very much in play here in Philadelphia. Good ballpark for hitters. This isn't one of those games that I'm going to end up playing a lot of pitchers from. So definitely looking at some bats and some stacks in this game. And then Vincent Velasquez on the other side of this game. We know what Vincent Velasquez is. He's going to get some strikeouts. He's going to give up home runs in the process. The story is written on Vincent Velasquez.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like the Brave side of this, too many walks.
Braves kind of let me down against the Blue Jays. Like that whole game was just like a little bit of a letdown. Just not as much scoring as I thought. Like it's not over yet, but I was just hoping for so much more scoring in that game. So I'm hoping the Braves bounce back here. What bats do you like here for Atlanta?
I've got some Freeman one-offs going tonight. He's doing well. Going right back to him against Velasquez. He's struggled with lefties his whole career. Acuna, you can always play. Swanson's off to a hot start. Ozuna. Didn't see what Markakis did tonight. He's coming back after opting out. But yeah, it's really Freeman. Freeman for me is the main one.
Yeah, I think Freeman's the main play. Depending on the lineup, looks like Swanson should be batting second. So, like, if you're playing Freeman, you can go ahead and like Acuna, Swanson, Freeman, Ozuna, Markakis, or d'Arnaud if he's catching. Always like a little bit of upside at my catcher. d'Arnaud and Flowers always gives you they hit those random home runs. Like they don't love splits and they just go out there and hit random home runs. So I don't mind ever playing those guys. So. Definitely, I think those guys are in play as well. And then on the Philly side of things, I like Philly here. You know, Wright has been a guy that has given up power to both sides in the small sample size that we've seen. And, it's the same case we were making for Philly on Thursday. Like, McCutchen's cheap, Hoskins cheap, Didi's cheap. Like, you're paying up for Real Muto and Harper, but you could get this stack, the five-man stack so cheap here.
Yep, I love it. Like I mentioned, Wright struggles with his command. He's going to put some runners on base, and then Philly can utilize their power in this small ballpark to capitalize on that. I love the Philly stack.
I will say Touki Toussaint, he's helped the Braves bullpen out as of right now. He was pitching into the seventh when we got started in this one, so helping the bullpen out a little bit there. Let's move on. We got the Detroit Tigers and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Matt Boyd against Chad Kuhl. Any interest here in Matt Boyd?
I do have some interest in Matt Boyd. A lot of Pittsburgh's bigger bats are better from the other side of the plate. He's going to turn around Josh Bell, who's much better from the left side. Colin Moran hits from the left side. Brian Reynolds is much better from the left side. Boyd has a ton of strikeout upside. So, yeah, I have a lot of interest in Matt Boyd here.
Yeah, I love his price, $8,900 for a matchup in Pittsburgh, ballpark upgrade. Plenty of strikeouts when you look at this lineup against left-handed pitching compared to what, you see against right-handed pitching. So I'm with you on Boyd. I think it's a great spot for him. He's a guy that, 29.5% K rate, 14% swinging strike rate dating back to last year. Plenty of upside. And it's not like we have a ton of ceiling pitchers on this slate. I think Trevor Bauer is clear-cut top option, and we'll talk about him when we get there. But besides him, we're searching for a ceiling guy, and I think Boyd is one of those guys that if we're not going all the way up to Trevor Bauer, or if we want to pair them together, I think Boyd is definitely in play here. I'm with you on that one. And then on the other side, we got Chad Kuhl. Chad Kuhl, a guy that we really haven't seen pitch in outside of 2018, was hurt, did not pitch last season in the bigs. I like picking on Detroit. They're going to be pretty right-handed heavy. Could we make an argument for Chad Kuhl here?
I don't love it. Coming back from the injury, I don't think he's going to have a long leash. I do like the strikeout upside against this Detroit team, but it's the innings that concern me.
Yeah, I also read something that he could just be an opener and throw 2 innings. So that could really hurt his ceiling. And I was reading that it might be Steven Brault that comes in and throws the bulk out of the bullpen. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. I don't think we necessarily have to risk it though. This is might be one of those slates where I just kind of all right, I'm not going to play either one of these pitchers, even though I love picking on the Tigers, because we really just don't know what we're going to see and how long Kuhl's going to go. Steven Brault, he's going to be facing a lot of righties. Crone has power, Scope has power. I probably just stay away from this situation in general here for myself anyway. Let's talk bats. Anything standing out to you for the Tigers?
No, like you mentioned, I think it was Brault that started the first 2 and then Kuhl piggybacked them. So it looks like they flipped that around. I don't know if that's due to the Tigers lineup and just the handedness of it, or why they're choosing to do that this time. But like you mentioned, even if the Tigers come out and hit Kuhl around, they're just going to go to Brault. I do like the power upside against Brault, but yeah, probably a stay away on this big of a slate.
Listen, I think CJ Crone and Jonathan Scope are in play. CJ Crone is 2,900. Jonathan Scope is 3K. I don't ever tend to play Miggy. I know he had a big game. What was it? A week or so ago, where he hit 2 home runs against Kansas City. That's going to happen. Miguel Cabrera is one of the best hitters of our generation. Injuries has definitely slowed him down, but he's going to have good games, but let him beat me. But at 2,700, he's super cheap too. So if you're wanting to go with a Bauer Boyd type of build and you want a couple cheap bats, CJ Crone and Jonathan Scope definitely fit that type of build to make those 2 top end pitchers work. On the Pittsburgh side of things, honestly, I don't have any interest in any of these guys. I think you could make an argument for one of these cheap shortstops, Tucker or Newman, but outside of just playing them because of their cheap, that's about it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mentioned he's going to turn around 2 of their best hitters, and then Moran is the third one I would have interest in normally, but he hits from the left side. Targeting the Tigers bullpen is the only reason I could see to go to it.
Miami Marlins, New York Mets, Jorge Gausman against Michael Wacha. Any interest here in Gausman? Guzman,
I think. What's his price? I don't even see him on DraftKings.
Yeah, I don't think he was supposed to be the starter. I thought it was supposed to be Castino.
Yeah, I thought so as well. That's what I saw on DraftKings. Yep.
We'll have to clarify this one, but either way, I probably don't have any interest in either one of them. I don't expect neither one of them to kind of go deep into the game. We saw decent strikeout numbers for Castino in the triple double A last season, but Alonso, Davis, Ramos, they have enough right-handed power where I don't think I'll end up using him even at 4,800 here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like the Mets side of this.
Michael Wacha, man, this guy is just someone who completely, like 2 or 3 years ago, Michael Wacha was a guy, like if he was in this spot, I'd feel like uber confident about rostering him. But like I have zero confidence outside of like this lineup's just really bad, and Wacha hasn't been terrible in his first couple starts this season. What are your thoughts when it comes to Michael Wacha?
Right with you. When he came up, he's throwing 97, looked like the next best thing the Cardinals were going to put out. Velocity's way down, strikeouts are way down. I don't think I'm going there.
Listen, here's the thing on Wacha. If he's going to be all like uber chalk today, pass. If he's going to be lower owned, like under 10%, I'll throw a tournament dart or two on Wacha because it is the Marlins. A lot of the power on this team, Jesus Aguilar and these guys are righties. I will say, like, Matt Joyce is there now. They have Dickerson. They have some lefties that could beat Wacha. So really just going to come down to, like, what is Michael Wacha's ownership on this slate? Any Miami Marlins bats that interest you here?
It'd be the lefties for me. I like Villar. He homered tonight. Dickerson, big power bat from the left side. Aguilar has a bunch of power. But like I said, I prefer the lefties.
Yeah, I was like kind of looking through like pricing here for Miami before we got started, and like these guys are still pretty expensive. Dickerson's 4,600. I feel like you're gonna find a lot of guys in that range, but like Matt Joyce is the guy that stands out to me. Should probably bat like fifth or sixth here for the Marlins at 3,300. Matt Joyce isn't anybody that's great. But like he's a guy that makes contact with baseballs, and I think anything can happen when you're making contact against like Michael Wacha. We've only seen like 223 plate appearances since the start of last season for him, but under 20% K rate. We saw right around like a 21% K rate for him in 2018. So Joyce is just someone that's going to put the ball in play at 3,300 and probably be pretty low owned because nobody likes to play the Marlins. Any Mets bats here that you like?
Yeah, definitely. Depending on whether it's Gausman or whatever his name was, Castano, whatever his name is I like them all either way. Pete Alonso is one of the premier power hitters in the game. I like Nimmo and Conforto at the top of the order. JD Davis, if it's the lefty going, I really like JD Davis a lot. But yeah, it's the power bats, the top of the order.
Yeah, like obviously we're gonna have to see if it's the righty or lefty, but honestly, I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I like Alonso. If it's the righty, like Dom Smith would be in there, and he's a power upside type of guy. But like I'm not. I would use the Mets as more like a secondary stack here. They're not like a 5-man stack for me. Cespedes being out of the lineup certainly hurts the overall upside of this team. But JD Davis, Pete Alonso. We'll see if it's a righty or lefty, whether it be Dom Smith or one of these other guys in there. But don't even hate like Conforto and a lefty if you're expecting this team to score some runs.
Yep.
Blue Jays and Red Sox, Tanner Roark against Ryan Weber. Any interest here in Tanner Roark against my stinky Red Sox? They look terrible, man. They look terrible.
To start the year, they have not been great, but I still am not going to Roark here. They're going to hit eventually. There's just way too much talent in this lineup. I'm not on Roark.
Listen, I want to keep saying that I'm a full believer in the talent on this team, but it's as a fan, it gets tougher and tougher. Listen, the Red Sox are pretty cheap today, outside of like JD Martinez and Devers, but it's definitely a team that I'm going to like. On the Toronto, I guess Weber is just a guy that doesn't strike anybody out. Like, he's a guy that has a 13.3% K rate since the start of last season, a very small swinging strike rate, gives up a lot of power to lefties. Like, I just don't have any interest here in Weber.
Nope, me either.
I like Toronto, man. I don't have FanDuel pricing up in front of me, but Toronto has been cheap on FanDuel almost every day. I'm pulling it up really quick. What are your thoughts here when it comes to Toronto?
Yeah, I do like this lineup. Weber doesn't strike anybody out. There's going to be a lot of contact. Bichette, Biggio, Gurriel, Tellez, Guerrero, even Grichuk and Shaw have power. Like there's power up and down this lineup. So if there's going to be contact made and we're not at risk of strikeouts, then I definitely have some interest.
Yeah, they moved Tellus up in the lineup yesterday. Hopefully they do that again. You could play both of those guys, him and Vlad, together on FanDuel. You have to use Vlad at third base if you're doing it on DraftKings. But Tellus is super cheap on DraftKings at $3,400. These guys are pretty cheap on FanDuel again. So I like them. I think Biggio is one of the top second baseman plays on the slate. And like the way that Weber throws to righties and lefties, kind of like pitch to contact to righties, try to generate ground balls. Like we have a lot of these young kids like Biggio and Vlad and these guys that like to hit the ball up in the air. So I think the Blue Jays are very much in play on the road here in Fenway. Tanner Roark, I like picking on Roark with lefties, Benintendi, Devers, Moreland. If I'm playing those guys, I'm looking at JD, I'm looking at Xander. Verdugo finally get it going here in the new uniform, but like Benintendi, Moreland, these guys are cheap. Even like Verdugo is 3,300. So going back to our conversation from earlier, like it's not going to be hard to fit in like Bauer in a top end option because we just have so many of these cheap bats.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All the lefties, Devers and Moreland, my top two, and I full stack them.
Twins and Royals, Devin Smeltzer against Jakob Yunis. Smeltzer, man, like, I don't think I can do it. Like, I guess I'm turned off a little bit by Tyler Chatwood. I'm a little shell-shocked, but this guy, he's not a big K guy from what we've seen so far. This lineup is not great, but they're a little bit better against left-handed pitching. Do you have any interest here in Smeltzer?
Only the price would interest me. Let's see, he was 6,300 on DraftKings. So if I'm trying to fit Bauer in a high price stack, I could see it. But there is a pitcher down there even lower that I have tons of interest in. So probably no Smeltzer for me.
Yeah, and on the other side, like it'll be Junis's first start of the season. Coming off the IL. Pretty sure it's his first start. Maybe he pitched. He pitched on the second. So threw 64 pitches. Didn't pitch terrible. Didn't pitch great. Not a huge strikeout guy. I'm probably going to pass here against the Twins.
Yeah, same for me.
Any Twins bats standing out to you here?
Yeah, Twins have a ton of power. This is a team I'm going to stack all year. Junis really struggles with the lefties. So Kepler, Polanco, Rosario. Nelson Cruz is one of the best hitters in baseball, so I'm always going to play him. Sano, a ton of power. Throw Garver in there as a catcher. I'm going to stack this team.
Yeah, I think there's a good possibility from what I was reading the other day that Donaldson's back too in this game. So that just adds to the overall upside of this team when Donaldson's healthy. This is a team that you're definitely looking at stacking on this slate. They have a ton of upside. So love the Twins, love the power. You start digging into these ISO numbers for the Twins against right-handed pitching, it's all real. All of these guys hit the ball hard. They all hit fly balls. It's what you want to see from power guys. And one of the reasons that they hit so many home runs last season. So the Royals, Soler is interesting against the lefty. But Whit Merrifield hits lefties better. McBroom will be in there, and he's super cheap. Franco is under 4K. You can make an argument for making a 3 or 4 man Kansas City stack here.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Sal Perez, I think he'll probably be the top option on the slate at catcher. And Witt hits lefties really well, like you mentioned. Soler, I think, had more power against righties last year, but historically has always hit lefties really well. So, yeah, I don't mind a 3-man with this team, and I think you could even stretch it to a 5.
Yeah, you mentioned Salvador Perez, 4,200, very much in play there. It really, this whole game is very stackable. So definitely like that one. Indians and White Sox, Aaron Seville against Dylan Cease. Any interest here in Seville?
I do. There's some strikeouts in this White Sox lineup. There's plenty of risk with that. going to be tournament only for me, but I do have some interest for the strikeout upside on the White Sox.
Yeah, you look at it and like his price at 9,300. I don't think a lot of people will pay that price. He's already pitched against this team once this season, struck out 9 guys. He struck out 9 against Minnesota. He's shown a lot of upside in a very small sample size so far. And we look at up and down this team, everyone outside of Mendick, who only has 34 plate appearances, has a strikeout rate over 20% against right-handed pitching. So I think he's a top option for tournaments on this slate. I'm right there with you. But I wouldn't even like talk you out of like potentially playing him in cash game if you want to go like double stud on this slate. Like maybe you don't trust Matt Boyd and you want to go Stevietpfl. I think it's super in play on this slate because there's just so many cheap bats that easily make it work. Indians finally coming alive a little bit on Thursday. They get a matchup here with Dylan Cease, who strikes out righties at a high clip, but has not been the same when you're looking at his numbers against lefties. Do you have any interest here in Cease?
Not against the Indians. Former top prospect. He's going to be really good one day. The command has not been there. The lefty power has been a problem for him. No interest against the Indians.
He's a guy that, like, this whole White Sox pitching organization had so much talent with Kopech and Giolito and Cease, and it like they just haven't shown up yet. So, like, they have a lot of young arms that have like, so many good prospects. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think there's too many lefties in this lineup. Like, this team can roll out like 6 or 7 lefties, and from what we've seen so far from him, he doesn't really have that out pitch against lefties yet. So just needs to develop his changeup a little bit more. And, maybe in 2 years when we're talking about him, we're talking about how much he's come along. So listen, the Indians have stunk so much. Do you have any interest here in Cleveland going up against Dylan Cease?
I think I do with the command issues that Cease has. The White Sox bullpen is not great. They're breaking out tonight as we're recording this. So all of the lefties, I mean, like you said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potential lefties in this lineup. Cease struggles with lefties. I do have some interest in stacking this team.
Yeah, like the only thing also is like when you're looking at it, it's like we know Jose Ramirez is a streaky hitter. If he can get it rolling here, maybe the rest of these guys can kind of follow suit a little bit, and we see a little bit more out of this production, out of these guys. And, like, you're paying up for Ramirez and Lindor, but the rest of these guys are relatively cheap. So, like, if you're stacking Cleveland on this slate, it's not hard to do. And, like, Reyes is 3,700. He has power against lefties and righties, so you don't really worry about him. And, like, Ramirez is a switch hitter. Lindor is a switch hitter. Santana is a switch hitter. So, like, you're getting the platoon out of your stack from whichever arm comes in from the bullpen. And if your stack's doing well, you're probably looking pretty good going into the bullpen. So, I like the Indians. I don't love them. I'm wanting the Indians to finally show up, but who knows? Any interest in the White Sox bats?
No, Savale's a control pitcher. He's shown some strikeout upside recently. I think there are better spots on the slate.
The only way that I'll like run out the White Sox stack here is if I end up playing him in like cash and just want like a hedge stack. I always try to like hedge when I think a guy is boom bust, and I think he's boom bust, but I think he's more on the boom side. So I do like him more than I like these bats. Reds and Brewers, Trevor Bauer against Eric Lauer. We've kind of hinted at it a couple times. Like, I think he's the clear-cut top option on this slate. What's your thoughts here on Bauer?
Right there with you. We talked about how terrible this Brewers lineup was yesterday. Just no Kane, no Braun. Trevor Bauer's an elite pitcher in my mind. Strikeout upside, good control. Trevor Bauer is the top option for me.
Yeah, and like the good thing, like when we're paying 10-6 for a guy, it's really comforting to know, like in his first 2 starts, he threw 105 and 111 pitches. Like we're getting the pitch count for the price tag and the matchup. So he's had the joys of pitching against Detroit twice to start the season, but it's not like the Brewers are a much scarier lineup. Like Yelich and, Sogard is a guy that's pesty, but you start looking at the strikeout rates on this team against right-handed pitching, and like you're going to love what you see for Trevor Bauer in this spot. So clear-cut top option for me. Eric Lauer on the other side, he is a guy that has shown that he can pitch well, but he's still like, I like lefties to be able to throw like 95 plus, and like sitting around 91, 92 for a lefty, I feel like you are going to struggle to get that strikeout. And like we see that in his numbers from time to time. He has good stuff. Was a prospect. It's just, I don't love this spot. I think there's better options on the slate.
No, and Suarez and Castellanos are just some huge righty bats that can really get to him. I'm with you. No interest for Lauer.
And like even Irvin's a guy that like they hit him leadoff all the time against lefties, and like he's not going to go out and hit 2 home runs, but like he's not a guy that typically strikes out. So like you're not even getting like even Moustakas doesn't strike out against lefties. So I like Irvin, Castellanos, Suarez, Moustakas. I'm not playing Joey Votto. That is very clear. But like Kirk Casale, like if you want to make a 5-man, or Senzel if you want to make a 5-man, there's plenty of options like of right-handed bats in this lineup that can go yards. So I like Cincinnati way more than I like Eric Lauer on the slate.
Yep, right there with you.
I have zero interest in the Brewers bats. Like you can play Yelich any day that you want. He's off to a really cold start to the season. Trevor Bauer is a lot worse against lefties, like really massive fly ball rate, gives up a ton of hard contact. Like you can play Yelich and hope that he hits a home run or two, but like you're not getting a discount. He's still 4,800.
Yeah, I don't like it either. The Brewers looking like they're going to roll out a ton of lefties, so that might present a little risk for Bauer, but he's better than the Justin Smokes and Logan Morrisons and Ben Gamels. Like
bring out Logan Morrison, bring him out.
Yeah.
That's 3 strikeouts. Just bring out Logan Morrison.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said it. Like they're gonna roll out a bunch of lefties here, but it's like Brock Holt, Logan Morrison, Justin Smoke.
Right. Yeah.
That's fine. Like I hope that scares some people off because they'll look at the numbers for Bauer and they're scared. But this lineup, it stinks. Cubs and Cardinals. John Lester against Jack Flaherty. Man, John Lester is making me eat words this year, and I hate it. I have a John Lester jersey in my closet from when he pitched with the Red Sox and went to the All-Star game. But I just don't think he's good anymore. And he made me eat it against Cincinnati. He pitched well against Pittsburgh. But he's not going to break the slate, and he's way too expensive at 9,100 because he doesn't strike anybody out anymore. Like, he wants to go out there and throw ground balls. Like, he doesn't want to go out there and throw the ball by anybody. I'm a full fade on John Lester still, and hopefully he keeps putting up 16.
I agree with you right there. He's a soft contact artist now. There's no strikeouts, no upside. The price tag is too high. I have no interest.
He went to Kyle Hendricks' like off-season clinic and learned how to throw to soft contact or something. Like, listen. I probably won't stack against him right now because I do want to respect like what I've seen so far from him this season. But I'm not playing him because I just don't see a ceiling anymore. And then the Cubs bats, or I guess Flaherty. We need to talk about Flaherty. I guess like he's a guy that has a massive strikeout rate against righties. He's looked good against lefties too. The Cubs kind of gave some guys days off on Thursday to get them ready, it feels like, for a Flaherty matchup. What are your thoughts when it comes to Flaherty here? Oh, just kidding. It's going to be Ponce de Leon, not Flaherty.
I was going to say, like, I was trying to find his price.
Yeah. They switched it from the time that we started until now because, like, I just wrote down this game before, like, 10 minutes before we started. So, Ponce de Leon, that changes my thoughts completely on this game.
It does. 7,500 for Ponce de Leon. If I'm not mistaken, he has a great changeup and strikes out lefties better than he does righties. That's off the top of my head. I'm not positive on that.
He throws his fastball about 70% of the time, and then he has a curveball changeup mix that kind of makes up for the other like 25 to 30%.
All right. Yeah, like you said, that completely changes my thoughts on the Cubs here. I don't have any interest in Ponce de Leon. I don't think at 7,500 there's a couple cheaper options that I like better.
Yeah, like I was shocked that he threw 85 pitches against Minnesota the other day. But between like really working counts and like walking guys and getting into trouble a couple times, like his pitch count was like 3 2/3. So I don't have any interest in Ponce de Leon. I have a lot more interest in the Cubs. I didn't have any interest in the Cubs against Flaherty, but I have a lot more interest in the Cubs here against Ponce de Leon. I think it's still like more of like 2 or 3 mans. I don't think like a full Cubs stack, but like Rizzo, Schwarber, Happ, like they're in play. Rizzo probably my favorite. He has such a low strikeout rate against lefties. Like you were saying, Ponce de Leon, much higher strikeout rate against lefties. So Chris Bryant's always in play. Like it's more of like 2 or 3 mans here for the Cubs for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just hunt the power. I believe he can give up some power.
Gotta love those power hunters. Cardinals against Leicester. Listen, I love Goldschmidt against lefties. It's no secret. I've talked about it so many times. And Paul Goldschmidt at 4,500 against a lefty, against any lefty, I'd have interest. And then Tommy Edmond, a guy that you could play at shortstop at 4K. We've seen about 100 plate appearances for him against lefties now, and very good numbers. Doesn't strike out, has a really high ISO, high hard hit rate. I've liked what I've seen from Edmond as well.
It kills me that Tommy Edmond is a legit major league player, but you're right. I mean, the sample size is growing, and he's still in our lives. Yeah, Edmond, Goldschmidt, O'Neill would be the 3 that I'd use.
Yeah, and Edmond a play too, because DeJong was one of the ones that had COVID. So like he'll play. Wieters throughout his career has always been better from the right side of the plate. He's 3,300 as a catcher. If he draws the start over, I think it's Kisner, right? So Kisner or whatever, Andrew Kisner.
Yeah, Kinsler, yeah, something.
Whatever his name is. But yeah, like Wieters is much better from the right side. Tyler O'Neill has been awful against lefties since coming up last season. Thomas has been good, but it's been very small sample size. So I think like I'm looking like Edmond, Goldschmidt, Wieters, batter has been kind of bad against lefties too. So like I want the guys that have been proven against like a veteran like Lester who will like study this matchup before he goes out there and pitches against this team.
Yeah.
Angels and Texas Rangers. Griffin Canning, Jordan Lyles. Any interest here in Griffin Canning?
I do. He was pretty good in his first start coming back from injury. This Texas team has a lot of strikeouts in it. I believe Canning had a decent price on him, 8,200 on DraftKings. So yeah, I do like the upside here.
Yeah, 86 pitches in his last start against Houston after throwing 82 against Oakland. Like he's not looked bad at all. It's really interesting to see like what this new ballpark's going to do in Texas, because so far we haven't seen like an explosion Rangers type of game yet. So the new ballpark may play more towards pitchers. I don't think we're going to know until the end of the season when we can really look at like the data. It's still such a small sample that we really might not know until the end of next season. So I feel a little bit more better. I feel a lot better about taking pitchers in Texas. I think Canning's definitely in play here at 8,200 when, the guy you're worried about the most is Joey Gallo, and he strikes out at a 36% clip, so I do think he's interesting. I like Jordan Lyles as a pitcher. I played him a ton last season. I do think he has talent. It's just the Angels don't strike out. Like, Ohtani's back. He hit a home run on Thursday in the afternoon. Like, Trout doesn't strike out. Rendon doesn't strike out. LaStella is a guy that just puts the ball in play as much as he possibly can. Old man Pujols doesn't strike out. Like, it's just, even though there's going to be a lot of righties here, it's just these guys don't strike out.
Yeah, I'm with you. With Trout back, this Angels lineup is not something I'm really going to attack this year. It's too deep. I'm with you. I do like Lyles. I think he has talent, but this is not the matchup.
Any Angels bats that you like here?
Um, I like Otani as a one-off. Maybe Trout you can always play as a one-off. Uh, I'm not stacking the Angels though.
Yeah, like if you stack them, it's probably like Trout, Rendon, Otani, like a little 3-man right here at the top of the order on the road in Texas against Lyles. Lyles a little bit worse against lefties, so like if you want to go Goodwin, if he's batting in a good lineup spot, he's been off to a really hot start to start the season. So I think you could play some of these Angels bats. I don't hate them here, especially on the road. On the Texas side, like Chu and Gallo are always in play. Is there anything else that's really standing out to you for the Rangers?
No, that's really it for me. Like you mentioned, this ballpark is completely different from what they're used to, what they've been in. I think it's at least a neutral park at this point, and maybe even slightly pitcher's park. So against Canning, no, it would just be Chu and Gallo for me.
Like, okay, so I will say, I think you can stack against the Angels all season. That bullpen's been terrible. I just don't know on a 13-game slate, like, how much I will actually do it. Like, if you're playing 150, if you want to get, like, 5 to 10%, like, Ranger stacks, maybe even, like, secondary stacks, I think that's, like, that is, like, an option to do to be on a team that's lower owned, that has power at the top of the order against a bullpen, like, Canning might only go like 90 pitches in 5 innings and like give up a couple runs. And then you get into that bullpen, and that bullpen has just been giving up runs left and right. So I used this strategy a little bit earlier this season. I think it was San Diego that they were playing. You know, it was a decent matchup, and like you just kind of play the bullpen against them a little bit. Arizona and San Diego, Luke Weaver, Zach Davies. Any interest here in Luke Weaver?
I don't. Too much respect for this Padres team. Weaver struggled his last time out. Uh, hasn't gotten on track yet this year, so no interest in Weaver.
Yeah. Oh man, I want to like Luke Weaver because I've loved right-handed pitching against the Padres for years. It's just this lineup is different. Gresham looks good. Pham is there. He's not a big strikeout guy. Very, very, very small sample size, but Cronenworth, he's been a guy that hasn't really been striking out either. So the tides are turning in San Diego, and this lineup is definitely better than it has been in the last couple of years. So I'm not like writing off Weaver. I want to look into like batted ball profile stuff a little bit more because he does throw a cutter. I like to look at like how teams react to cutters. So I'll have to look a little bit more into Weaver. He's kind of like a fringe guy for me right now. And then on the other side, Zach Davies. Zach Davies is a guy we've used a couple times this season, but I won't be using him in this spot. Not a big strikeout guy. We have plenty of arms on this slate with 13 games. Just because you played him earlier this season does not mean you need to keep playing him. Take the 18 points we got against San Francisco and be happy with it, but you don't have to play him every time out.
Yeah, agree with you there. San Francisco is not the same matchup as Diamondbacks, so I'm not on Davies.
Any Arizona bats that you like here?
Not one of my top stacks, but I do like the upside of this lineup. So yeah, I could see stacking them.
Yeah, they came alive a little bit on Wednesday, and they showed a little bit of life in Thursday. Again, like I keep saying this, like a lot of these guys have really low BABIPs right now, and like I feel like we're gonna start seeing some balls drop, and they can have bigger games. Zach Davies being like a low K guy, I could see using Calhoun, Marte, Walker, Escobar, Peralta, and even like Kelly. I think he's another option. So I don't know if I would 5-man, but it's not out of the question. Like, not only is Weaver like a fringe play, I feel like the Arizona bats are like a fringe play for me today.
Yeah, I agree. And the more I think about it, this game might just avoided on a slate this big. I think there's better upside spots. If you want to take a lone tournament stab, it's fine, but not one of my favorite spots.
Yeah, like I like the price on Escobar at 3,800, but we've talked about so many cheap guys already. Like I might get exposure to this game on like the late 9 o'clock slate because we have like a 5-game 9 o'clock slate that has some decent tournaments. So, Padres bats against Weaver. I'm not going to tell you not to play Padres. It's just I respect Luke Weaver too.
Yeah, I do. This Padres team has so much talent, though. I don't think I'd full stack against Weaver, but Tatis, Grisham, Machado, Pham would probably be the ones I'm looking at.
The one thing that I will say is like he pitched already against this team earlier this season in 3 1/3, allowed 6 earned runs, home run on 7 hits. So like they could touch him up again. It wouldn't shock me. So yeah. I don't hate stacking them because it's not like there's a ton of great arms in that Arizona bullpen behind him. So, like, start digging into, like, the Arizona bullpen numbers. If Weaver's not on and he's not pitching well, the San Diego stack could be your late-night hammer when a lot of people are probably playing, like, Dodgers or Rockies as, like, their late-night hammer. Astros and Athletics, Zach Greinke, Chris Bassett. Any interest here in Greinke?
Greinke is just too expensive. He's a 10-2 on DraftKings. He just doesn't have the same upside as he once did. This Oakland lineup has a ton of power. I don't think I can go to Greinke here.
Yeah, on average, Zach Greinke's velocity is down 2 whole miles an hour this season. It had already dropped a lot over the last few years, but he is a guy that can go out and still like hit spots, but to beat Oakland, you have to throw hard. Shout out to Kurt Dees. He was the one that like brought this to my attention, and I did some research on it. Like you got to throw hard against Oakland to beat them, you know. So these soft tossing guys like Greinke, I think Oakland's actually a great stack in this slate. They're a late night hammer that I like as well. So Greinke's not the same. We're seeing like really low velocity and just kind of like living and dying by throwing a ton of sliders, like 41% in his first 2 starts. And it's just not going to be enough to, you know, pay off this price tag. And then on the other side, we got Chris Bassett. Bassett against Houston. Like, I hate playing right-handed pitching against Houston. They're just up and down the lineup, just so good against righties.
Yeah, no Bassett for me. Too much talent on the Houston side. He was really good his last time out, but it was against Seattle. I mean, that's just not a comparable matchup. So I'm off Bassett here.
Any bats on Houston that you like here?
They're always in play. Just the power, patience, upside is really what I'm looking for when I'm looking at a stack. I think Bassett does have a little bit of talent, but you can always stack Houston. Yeah,
my only issue with like stacking Houston here is they're so like all the bats you want are righty, and like he's just been so legit against righties that I don't know if they necessarily have the upside to beat you, but like I love the prices. Like Correa's 3,700. Like maybe Correa is a one-off. I think he'll actually end up being kind of popular on this slate at that price. But
I don't mind the bottom of the order. Kyle Tucker's been really good. If Toro happens to crack the lineup, I don't think he's projected right now, but if you can get Correa, Tucker, Toro at the bottom of that lineup, I would love that.
Yeah, like, you know, I think that's definitely in play. Toro's switch hitter, so maybe he cracks the lineup over Gurriel or somebody to give like Gurriel a day off. But I don't mind that call. Yeah, Correa is super cheap. Tucker's super cheap at 3,300. So like you can build the bottom end of that like stack really, really cheap with Josh Reddick at 2,700 as well. So, and most of those guys outside of Correa are lefties, and that's kind of what you want against Bassett. So like that call. I already talked about Oakland. I like Oakland. What's your thoughts here when it comes to the Athletics?
Yeah, Greinke's not typically someone I like to pick on just because the control is good. But the skills are declining, and Oakland, as we talked about, has a ton of power, high upside lineup. I always think they're in play to stack.
Yeah, I love the prices too. Like Olsen 44, Kana, who's been crushing the ball, 4,500. Like you got to pay up for Chapman. That's fine. Chris Davis, like maybe he wants to play baseball again this season because he's starting to hit the ball again. Like he looked so uninterested at the beginning of the season, but back-to-back games with multi-hits. So maybe we can start calling him Crush Davis again. But he's a guy that I typically like to target against like sinker ball pitchers. His numbers against sliders are not like anything to like write home about. So, all right, moving on, cruising right through it. A lot of games. Rockies, Mariners, Sensatella against Kikuchi. Any interest here in Sensatella?
I do think this Mariners lineup is attackable. I think Sensatella was cheap. Let me double check that. Yeah, down there at 5,800. With the strikeouts in this Mariners lineup, I do have a little bit of interest if you're just using them in tournaments to try to fit in a stack.
Yeah, velocity up a little bit for him. Not typically a huge like strikeout guy, but he's had a good start to the season. I think he's in play. I do. It's just I think he's in play because he's 5,800 going up against Seattle. But I also think like there is a legit chance that you can stack Seattle on this slate, even though they've been pretty terrible. So like
Totally
I like both
agree.
sides. I like both sides of it. Like
Yep, I'm right there with you.
Let's see what old Chris Jimino has on Sensatella's ownership here at 5,800 going up against Seattle. So, and then like on the other side, we got Kikuchi here. He's 5K going up against the Rockies coming out of Coors. It's scary though. Like you have Arenado there, you have Story. Matt Kemp is a shell of his former self, but he's always been able to, be better than lefties. What are your thoughts here when it comes to 5K Kikuchi?
I think he will be my highest owned pitcher on the slate. He is very much in that Chatwood mold of a guy who was pretty bad last year. Kikuchi's a guy that had a lot of success in Japan, though, and he, in his last start, was running his fastball up to 97 miles an hour, which is about a 3 to 4 mile an hour jump from what we've seen. I actually took down a GPP last week with the Chatwood Kikuchi combination. I'm going right back to Kikuchi. I think he's found something with his fastball, and he's a different pitcher than he was last year.
Yeah, and like if you're looking at like overall ceiling between like Kikuchi and Sensatella in the same exact game, like Sensatella doesn't want to blow the ball by people anymore. Like his mile an hours are down a little bit. It's actually up one. But, like, it's 94. It's not 97. Like, Sensatella is more of a pitch-to-contact guy. He has been for years. Kikuchi, I like the call. He's a hard-throwing lefty against Oakland, like we were just talking about. So, I think Kikuchi is very much in play here at 5K. I don't know if I'd go Kikuchi in cash games for what it's worth. I will say – it is really easy. I always kind of build a lineup as we're going. It's usually like my shell lineup to enter contest with, but like it's really easy to play Bauer and Stevietpfl or Boyd on this slate for cash games. So I don't think I end up with Kikuchi and cash, but I love the tournament upside. I love the call. Any interest here in the Colorado Bats?
Arenado and Story against a lefty, always in play. I'm not saying there isn't risk with Kikuchi. Blackman hits lefties fairly well, so and Dow those two, and Kemp has been off to a great start. I don't know if he's dust or not at this point. He looks, it might be the Coors effect, but he might have something left in the tank. So probably not a full stack for me, but I don't mind a 3-man.
Listen, if Kikuchi's going to throw hard, I know you were talking about it. It's something that I looked up before we got going here. These guys don't have a ton of sample against hard-throwing lefties, but what we're seeing, like, out of those numbers is not great. Even if you, like, look in that 94 to 96 range, Arenado, obviously, like, Arenado's going to hit lefties, but, like, Story's numbers go way down when you start ramping up the miles per hour. So, it's definitely something to note. But, yeah, I think that, you're looking at this spot. I think, you could play Arenado in any matchup, and it's just one of those spots where like he likely ends up more as a one-off for me when I'm seeing from Story. Like all the Rockies are priced like they're still in cores too, so it's really easy to be underweight on them outside of like Matt Kemp at 3,300 and Arenado just because he's a beast.
historically we've seen their strikeout rate skyrocket away from Coors too. The altitude just takes the movement out of the ball, and then when they go on the road, there's a lot more movement than they're used to, and their strikeout rate just goes through the roof.
Yep. Listen, the Mariners are cheap. Seattle is cheap. Everybody from Seattle is cheap, and that is why there's such an interesting like secondary or even like a full stack here. I don't believe in Sensatella's reemergence and pitching as well as he's been pitching. I actually think this is a good spot for my boy Vogelbach to get on the board and hit his second home run of the season. I know he hit one against the Angels. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? But listen, this is a spot where you got a guy that's going to pitch more to contact. You don't do that against like Daniel Vogelbach. Austin Nola is a cheap catcher. Give me some Seattle bats here. They're so cheap.
Yeah, I like that. I love what I'm seeing out of Kyle Lewis to start the year too. I mean, that guy looks legit. Seager's got power. So yeah, I like some Seattle bats here.
Even if you play Kyle Lewis as a one-off, he's 3,900. One of the hottest hitters to start the season is 3,900. Dylan Moore, another guy that's been super hot to start the season, 3K. I get it. They're Seattle, and everybody wants to say they're not great, and I don't think they're great, but I think that they're way better than what they're priced at on this slate for this matchup. So I'm going to take advantage of that here. We finish it out with the Giants and Dodgers. Jeff Samardzija against Julio Urias. Any interest here in the Shark?
No, thank you. Dodgers have probably the most potent offense in baseball, and the Shark is no longer good.
Yeah, it's a Jock Jams day. It is a jock. He profiles really well. Him and AJ Pollock, of all people, profile really well against Jeff Samardzija. Here, Julio Urias on the other side of this game. I think there's a ton of options on this slate, and I don't want to write him off. But if there's a guy that I had to pinpoint to throw 90 pitches on this slate and get pulled in the fifth or sixth inning, it would be him.
Yeah, right there with you. They have treated him with kid gloves ever since he came up a couple years ago. He's dealt with injuries. There's no chance he throws over 100, and I'm with you. He's going to be right in that 90 range.
Yeah, he's just at 9,800. If you find the extra $800 for Bauer, you're likely going to get an extra 20 pitches, probably, if not more. Stevietpfl, he's a guy that I would play before I'd play Urias and save the money. Boyd, these guys, I'd rather play these guys. I think Julio Urias is a good pitcher. I'm not stacking against him by any means on the slate for what it's worth. I don't think he goes deep enough where he's going to win me a tournament. So I like the talent, not stacking against him. Don't really like the Giants here, but I also just don't think he goes deep enough in this game to beat me.
Yep, completely agree.
Giants bats, anything?
No.
How high owned do the Dodgers come in on this slate? With them being the latest game on the slate, people hate stacking late games, and it's so weird. It's never made sense to me whatsoever. Mookie is still a little banged up, so he could be potentially out of the lineup here, and we could get one of these other guys in there. What are we looking at here when it comes to the Dodgers?
I'm hoping that the lineup doesn't come out until after lock, and it holds down their ownership, because otherwise they're going to be one of the top owned stacks on the slate. Muncie Bellinger from the left side. Shark has struggled with lefty power his whole career. Turner, Seager, Peterson, Pollock. I mean, even Beatty and Smith, 1 through 9. You can stack it any way you want against Samardzija. I love the Dodgers today.
Yeah, if Pollock's in there, I like him at 3,100. If for some reason Betts is out and they let Edwin Rios DH in this game, he's 2,700 and he's shown a ton of power so far. Got hit in the foot, but they said he was available Wednesday, so I definitely think he'll be ready to go in this game if they can get him a start here. I know they like Matt Beatty, but get Rios some at bats. He's shown a ton of power. That's a great matchup for him too. So. All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here for the weekend. Give me a guy under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts on this slate.
You say Kikuchi.
All right. I kind of figured that's who it was going to be for you. I liked it as well. He was the guy that I was kind of looking at. Listen, I'm just saying this because it's the Miami Marlins. I do not love Waka here unless he's going to be low owned, but I think he's the next best option under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts because he's facing the Miami Marlins. Over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
I do not like Dylan Cease's matchup with all those Cleveland lefties. So give me Dylan Cease.
I'm going to say John Lester. He's going to score 14.5. Just listen, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm not paying over 9K for John Lester against any team. He could be facing the Miami Marlins. I'm not paying over 9K for him. So, over 4K to hit a home run. Who's an expensive bat that you like to hit a home run today?
Let's see, who did I have here? Harper hit one out today, and I think he's going to do it again. Give me Bryce Harper.
All right, I like that one.
I love that ballpark.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Matt Olson. I already kind of talked about liking Oakland here. I think Matt Olson is in a great spot to hit one out of the ballpark today. Give me a cheap bat under 4K to get 2 or more hits on this slate.
You talked about Brian Goodwin's hot start. He's sitting there at 3,300. I like Brian Goodwin for a couple hits.
I like it. I like it. Oh, there's so many guys that I like down here, but I'm going to go with a guy that's going to get 2 hits, and one of them is going to be a home run, and that's Rowdy Tells at 3,400. I think we're going to see a really big game from him today. I know I went double first baseman for the game, but I'm the host. I'm allowed to do what I want. Stack to score over 6 runs. Give me a stack that's standing out to you on the slate.
So the one I had written down here was assuming that Castano is pitching for Miami, and I like the Mets in that spot. I have another one if it's Guzman, though, because I don't like the Mets quite as much if it's Guzman.
All right. Who's your other one?
The Dodgers would be the other one.
Well, I was going to say the Dodgers anyway, so we'll go with it. I'm going to go with the late night hammer, LA Dodgers, the stack to bring us home. Is there any over-under, anything that's standing out to you? Looking good to extend my sharp side streak. If you guys haven't checked out the streak contest, you can do that. It's been a ton of fun to give out those picks each and every day. Anything standing out to you here?
Is there a total in the Miami-New York Mets game yet?
I was pulling it up. Hold on 1 second. It's so slow. My phone, when I don't have it connected to Wi-Fi, is so slow sometimes. The Mets game does not currently have a total.
Unless the total is like 10, I'll take the over in that, regardless of who the Miami pitcher is, because their bullpen's terrible. And I don't trust Waka at all, so I like the over in the Miami Mets game.
All right, I like it. Listen, the Braves and the Phillies have a massive total. It's currently sitting at 10. Give me the over in that game. I like both offenses in that game. I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored in that game. Both sides, the Phillies side against Wright, the Braves side against Vincent Velasquez. I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored in that game. So definitely want to check that one out. Before we get out of here, Underdog Fantasy Sports from the minds behind the Draft app. NFL Best Ball is a fun set-it-and-forget-it format. They have an app for iOS and Android. Best Ball leagues from $3 to $100, including their signature Best Ball Mania tournament. $25 entry, $1 million prize pool with $200,000 to the winner. Be on the lookout for live draft shows on RotoGrinders. We had one on Thursday, have another one on Friday. Make sure you're checking them out at underdogfantasy.com or download the app today and start your NFL drafting. Everyone loves NFL season, and just being able to get some exposure to best ball. Love what they're doing over there at underdogfantasy.com, so make sure you guys are checking them out. Keith, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope. Ready for a big baseball slate tomorrow, leading into a huge weekend in NASCAR. Looking forward to your content for that. So, Ready to go.
Big weekend indeed. Cup races on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be able to use a lot of the information Saturday for the race on Sunday. We have an awesome new promo going for this week. You can get the rest of the season for $199. So if you're a weekly subscriber, make sure you're checking that out. You're going to save about $40. And NASCAR announced a couple extra races. So it's not only 39 races, it's like 42 races for the end of the season. So love to see it. Make sure you guys are checking that out. Hope everyone has an awesome Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll be back Monday talking some more baseball. Good luck in contests, and we'll see you then.